What is something that you will never try in your life? Spelunking in an underground cave. https:// wikipedia.org/wiki/nutty-putty-cave. I was going to say heroin, but actually I'd probably do some dope before I'd ever do moderate to advanced spelunking or cave diving. I even get shortness breath just watching people do it. My mind immediately goes into a cave collapse of what if stuck forever. What if small insects or snakes bite you? What if it floods suddenly? There are too many moving variables to even watch it from the comfort of home comfortably. No. Never doing this. I'm in a sub for a prospective university and someone was posting about wanting to go spelunking not too long ago and was looking for a guide for a cave that's apparently super dangerous. This person shared they were a beginner and when people were saying even trained spelunkers avoid this particular cave and to not go, they doubled down and said they were going whether they had a guide or not, so if anyone had any recommendations to just drop them in the comments. I really hope this person was trolling and isn't actually stupid enough to go solo spelunking in a cave even experts avoid. I'm saving heroin for my 100th birthday. At that point, duck it. All right, that's enough of that. Came here to say that. Still a hard pass on the heroin. One of my internships was at a methadone clinic. It's gut-wrenching. I hate small spaces, so yeah, no way. It's the best when you get stuck in a tiny crawl space and there's a small rock poking into your ribs but you can't move. You then get a really bad itch but you can't move your arms to scratch it. The feeling of claustrophobia overwhelms you, so you start panicking and wiggle around frantically, but you're at a slight angle, so you just slip a little more and that rock digs in just a little bit more each time. You scream and scream but no one can do anything for you. There are also maniacs who go cave diving, combining two nightmare scenarios into one. Just waiting for somebody to up the ante by filling their dive mask with spiders or something. The guy who died in the cave died from suffocation. He was stuck upside down with his feet higher than his head, and he got stuck around a corner called the birth canal. Soon, all the fluids in his body started swelling around his lungs and head, lodging himself deeper into the cave. He was keep passing out and having trouble breathing. I think he was there for a day or so before he died. There's a really interesting documentary about it. Psychological, this had to be terrifying. I had an old coworker who spelunked for a living. He worked with Geographic Information System (GIS) and mapped caves. He also worked with professors and researchers who documented the biological aspects of cave life. He was a bit of a big guy, so I'm sure he didn't get into any tight spots. I did it when my kids were in Boy Scouts. Scooting through tight tunnels on my stomach. Thinking back, I'm like, how in the hell did I do that? There was a team that once went cave diving in an iceberg. Triple nightmare scenario. https://www.onlyagames/2019/9/20 Jill Heinrich cave diving, Antarctica. The most remarkable part is that this was 20 years ago and the person who did it is still alive. I got stuck at the bottom of a slide pileup in kindergarten, and that stick has haunted me for over 20 years. Hard same. Yet. Three-way tie of spelunking and unknown route, heroin, and anal sex pitching or catching. Trying drugs doesn't make you an addict, but I can't recommend it. Alcohol is the only one that got me. Remember that, kids. Same fellow VV whore. Snack seems safer, tbh. I freebased it once and I could see why people get sucked into the dark abyss. Somehow I just never go into it. I was more into Sneed, ecstasy, shrooms, and LSD, all of which can certainly zap your brain from abuse. Lol. I won't try Herman because I know I would probably love it, and that would be the end of me. Had a problem with Norco and Oxys for a while, so after the withdrawals and phantom pains I'm not willing to go down that road again. Same. Heroin comes to mind first, but I'm actually way more terrified of caves and spelunking. Heroin or meth stick is too addictive. Maybe on my deathbed. Just the grandkids walking in on grandpa burning his lips on a pipe. Not cause then I'd get hooked and think, damn, why didn't I do this earlier, and be mad at myself and then die. Been there, done that. As you can see with my username, that is the chemical name of heroin. But I have to tell you, the effect is actually a little bit different from what many people think about heroin. The high with euphoria is different in a way, that it gives you a fake kind of hope. You don't forget your problems on heroin, no, but you think you'd come up with a solution for all these problems, and that there will be a happy ending just like in some movies. It also creates a warm feeling of euphoria that makes you feel at home, like when you'd be a baby in the arms of your mother and everything would be great. Also in the medical way as painkiller, it will not really remove the pain, it will move the pain to the background, and it will lose the annoying feeling. It's more like I know I'm in pain, but I don't care. The problem is about addiction. Everybody tells you you'd get addicted in no time. Then you use it and you see you don't get addicted with the first times, therefore it creates a trap. You think you'd be able to control the drug. In reality, the drug will slowly but steadily take over control and you won't notice until it is already too late. That was just a short trip to the world of drugs. There's a lot more about this. Like heroin comes in different forms. Heroin from Afghanistan isn't the same like that from China. Also, the way of application like oral, nasal, IV, etc. makes a big difference. It's also very complex when you go the chemical way. How the heroin gets metabolized, how it works pre- and post-synaptic with being coupled to a G protein and docked to the mu, kappa, and gamma receptors, etc. But that's another story. Heroin chasing the dragon. basically means trying to reach the euphoria of that first high of bliss you can never reach again. It might do pharmaceutical methotrexate because I already have a prescription for Adderall, and stimulants aren't really an issue for me as I can get overstimulated, and cocaine barely does anything for me, but heroin would have me dead in a week. I need to be careful with downers. Heroin or meth stick is too addictive. I've been addicted to meth and alcohol. Meth is a piece of cake compared to alcohol. You just stop, feel tired and sticky for a few days, and that's it. Alcohol, if you don't stop it right, puts you in the ICU with the delirium tremens and spiders crawling over you while voices tell you that you are witnessing death. No joke. And one is legal. I have a very addictive personality. I get hooked on steroids after 2 days, so I know I would get instantly hooked. I can't risk ducking up my life, so I can say I will never, ever try hard drugs. Nice explanation and thinking. Quick question, though. Does Breaking Bad make a good representation of it in the character of Jane? It's more than just addictive. Plenty of people have died from their first use. Not unusual to administer a duckload of morphine to people dying. Basically heroin. Fentanyl. I've had that. It's better than being in so much pain you literally can't stop screaming. It's worse than everything else. I think maybe they mean recreationally. At least, that would definitely be my answer. Had it after surgery. Felt no pain with no side effects. Had no desire to take it outside of the hospital. I'm not an opioid addict. It's basically only safe in hospital settings where there are trained professionals handling it the whole time. The moment you introduce some amateur stickule trying to make fast money is the moment you have people keeling over left and right because they don't understand how to measure medications or don't understand the importance of cleaning scales used to measure drugs. A street dealer has basically no accountability as long as they don't duck over their supplier. The end user is basically flipping a coin to determine whether they live or die. Fentanyl administered by a medical professional is fine and has some benefits over other pain meds such as morphine. Fentanyl gotten off the street is the dangerous stuff. Street fentanyl, yeah, don't touch the stuff. However, if you're ever in an accident and need pain medication, there's no reason to deny fentanyl from an actual medical professional who properly doses it. The reason it's so dangerous is because if you buy it on the street is you don't know how much you're getting. It has been part of the drugs used for when I've had minor outpatient procedures. I think they call it twilight sedation. In both cases, I was technically conscious but have no recollection of what happened, which I am perfectly okay with. My dad had to take fentanyl after heart surgery. I'm assuming you mean recreationally, but unless you have an allergy, I would just trust the surgeons in situations like that. Fentanyl gotten off the street is the dangerous stuff. The problem is that shady dealers are mixing it or using it as a substitute for other drugs. Not that I'm looking to do coke again anytime soon, but I wouldn't touch that today without test strips on it first. There was a dealer busted here a few years ago that had managed to get his hands on a pill press, and so they were making what looked like Valium pills from a pharmaceutical company, but they were fentanyl. It's a fantastic medication and a horrible street drug. If it's being given to you in a hospital by trained medical personnel, you're gonna want it. If it's being given to you behind a gas station by a shady guy with a cigarette hanging out of his mouth, you're gonna want some Narcan. Hot air ballooning. I love both flying and heights too. I've piloted ultralight aircraft. But this method of getting in the air I just don't like. When I was a kid I watched a hot air balloon shaped like a Dairy Queen ice cream cone plummet to the earth, killing everyone on board. It was horrifying. It took place in Calgary, around the time of the stampede. I didn't think a balloon could react in such a way that it could lose all its hot air and go into an instant free fall. But that is exactly what happened. There was an obstacle that blocked our view of the actual crash landing. I was still in elementary school and was lucky enough to not have seen or heard the violent final seconds of those poor people's lives. So yeah, hot air balloons are a hard pass for me. Same here. I'm sure it's fun, but not fun enough to risk getting burned alive when that thing hits a telephone pole. Duck, I never thought of that. Yeah, they always worried me. Lack of directional control. You only had altitude control right. Whim of the wind. No thanks. My extended family pilots balloons. It is really creepy how quiet it is up there when they aren't descending, and scary how much they all drink. I did it and hadn't really ever thought about how it works until I was in the basket. I guess I just assumed there was a clever and efficient way of flying a hot air balloon seeing as so many do it. I was very surprised, but it was still cool to do. I just won't do it again. It read, "Let me get into the fire-propelled device, which is all extremely flammable, whilst being isolated to a height that I cannot do anything about in case of an emergency." Yeah, sure. Sounds like a fun time grimacing. I had a family member that owned one, and this comment is the truth. I'm glad I got to go up a few times when I was a kid and too young to realize how many things could go wrong. I was sitting in my living room one day and heard a commotion outside of my house in the front yard. A hot air balloon had crash-landed in my tree due to a small change in wind direction. Took emergency crews to extract the people stuck up there. Luckily no one was injured. Just a wind gust at the wrong time ended this flight with an emergency evacuation. No thanks. I did a tandem skydive once, and one of the guys there told us that one of the favorite skydives he did was from a hot air balloon. He said it was just a very different experience going from all the noise of the plane to one where it started off very quiet and the wind noise built up in his ears as he picked up speed. To me it's all about the basket breaking or tipping or hitting strong winds. Hell no. Bungee jumping.